Okay, good morning. Good morning and welcome. All right. Hello. Thank you. All right, good morning and welcome everyone who are joining us here in person at St. Cajetan's. We're real excited to have you on our campus and in this beautiful building. And also welcome to those of you who are joining us online on Zoom. So this is the Histories and Legacies of Displacement and Removal Symposium, sponsored by the University of Colorado, Denver. And to help us open our symposium here, he's coming on up if you want to. Great. So to help us open the symposium, we have Eugene Blackbear Jr., a tribal leader of the Southern Cheyenne Nation.
Now, I want to talk about first of all, to say Cheyenne, Nolbert, Cheyenne, Eugene, Oklahoma, did not come up here to prepare. Many instances, many gatherings, many tribal ceremonies, a lot of times throughout the year, we talk to my father, grandfather, great-grandfather. I appreciate today, 2 days of closing, beginning with the prayer. I brought my cedar to Oklahoma. I'm going to bring the cedar to first, incense here, then come up to the podium and say the prayer. Some of you can see the cedar come out, and the smoke starts coming out from the city. I'm going to reach out like that. Let you go. You know, I see that morning. Very honored to be here today to see you.
Tahana to what's a meno, my you, never just a goa. Ever just a goa, it's a tapana matas at the Colorado University at Denver. This is the Dukios that the Chistas, not Hanane, it was just a goa. Tahana to what's a meno, it was a money years, it was just a goa. It was Vistamaman. The Bibi, the Dukios, it was the Chistas, it was Hanane, it was just a goa. The baby made years. Oh, it's a pivot. It was just a go. Town at what's a man of my ear. It was just a go. It was very on none at the side of Bill Mutas. The harmonies, my ear. It was Mr. Menard, the Bill Mutta. It was haunts at the notes. Very on none. It was Power Mr. Menard. It was just a go. The Biff Hindian. Just one nets. Hookers and all. It was chickens just at the. He almost made. It was well, none of the Jahias. It was Marcus. It was the Ma. It done. Hey, Sawa, say, Gutchgunya. It done it, Gutchgun. Hey, Gutchgun. It was Nutgaville. Ah. It was just a go to wilderness. It was Nutkia. Monson at Daniel. He met the nurse. It was just a go. Well, none. Our Heavenly Father, Creator, as we open our 2-day symposium here this morning, we ask for the good spirits in the 4 directions that you look down upon us this day. We want to say thank you for this day that you have given us. Very honored to be here with this institution of higher learning. Tao na tuwa tumino ma'yo, tewa jusikoa, tewa you bless our sacred covenants. Many things we're thinking about. You be with our veterans, you be with our active duty military, you be with our nation, you be with the city here of Denver, you be with the state here of Colorado, and all the places we come from. You bless our homes, bless our time that we're going to be here, that it can be beneficial to the ones that are in attendance here. Many things I mentioned to you to this day. We thank you for this day, Heavenly Father. We ask a continuance of your guidance to be with us each day. Amen.
Welcome. What a way to start. Makes us want to take a deep breath. I think I can breathe in the cedar as I'm standing here. My name is Marjorie Levine-Clark, and I am a professor of history and associate dean for diversity, outreach, and initiatives in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at the University of Colorado, Denver. And again, welcome to this symposium on histories and legacies of displacement and removal. I would like to begin by offering a land acknowledgement composed by our former Director of American Indian Student Services, Gracie Redshirt Cheyenne Lakota, who's now with the Centers for American Indian and Alaska Native Health at CU Anschutz. Acknowledging that we reside in the homelands of Indigenous peoples is an important step in recognizing the history and the original stewards of these lands. Land acknowledgements must extend far beyond words. The United States has worked hard to erase the narratives of Indigenous peoples over time. Land acknowledgement statements can help to remind us of the history, contributions, and the sacrifices Native peoples have made. We honor and acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute nations. This area, specifically the confluence of the Platte and Cherry Creek rivers, was the epicenter for trade, information sharing, planning for the future, community, family and ally building, as well as conducting healing ceremonies for over 45 Indigenous nations, including the Lakota, Kiowa, Comanche, Apache, Shoshone, Paiute, Zuni, and Hopi, among others. We must recognize Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of this land, and as these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, remember the ties these nations still have to their traditional homelands. Let us acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this territory, and pay our respect to the diverse Indigenous peoples still connected to this land. Let us also give thanks to all tribal nations and the ancestors of this place. We also have the good fortune to have this event taking place during Hispanic Heritage Month. So we have a lot to frame our moment right now. Our land acknowledgement not only does a wonderful job situating us in place and in history, it also situates us in purpose, in our intention for why we are here for these next 2 days. A discussion of what I have come to call the double layered displacement and removal on which this campus sits. This symposium originated in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at CU Denver, the Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the fall of 2019. We were having discussions about the ways that universities across the country and beyond were confronting the uncomfortable histories of their institutions, connecting these histories to current issues and trying to find ways to move forward in productive and educational ways. The Jesuit Georgetown University, for example, began in 2015 a long-term project to examine the institution's role in enslavement. The university is working in collaboration with descendants whose ancestors were enslaved on Maryland Jesuit plantations on initiatives including research, teaching, and memorialization. They're working toward a path of reconciliation. In 2021, a Virginia state board voted to rename 5 community colleges to end symbolic ties to enslavers and other white supremacists. Other universities, as many of you know, have been taking down monuments of the owners of enslaved persons, changing names of buildings, and integrating their institutions' histories into curricula. They have also been integrating their difficult histories with the histories in their communities in which they reside. While our focus over these 2 days is Auraria and its surrounding communities, we keep in mind other stories of displacement and removal in Denver. For example, only this year, the city of Denver apologized for an anti-Chinese race riot in 1880 that destroyed Denver's Chinatown. Business and property owners were never compensated for their losses, and the rioters were never punished. The estimated loss today would be valued at about 1.5 million. In 2019, the council imagined a symposium as a starting point to larger, more permanent markers of this campus histories of displacement and removal. So that was 3 years ago. Some of these markers have now outpaced this symposium. You will hear of the work of the 9th Street houses, and last fall launched expanded scholarships for all descendants of displaced Aurarians. We developed the idea of a symposium to engage with CU Denver's histories of displacement and removal, and then imagined signage indicating important markers of these histories and legacies. We imagined that these histories and legacies should be incorporated into faculty and student orientation, that no student or employee at CU Denver would be ignorant of this campus's past. We can think of this now as the goal of becoming, as part of the goal of becoming an equity-serving institution, one that faces its past and is mindful of its connection with current communities. The council was fortunate to receive a CU President's Grant for Diversity and Excellence to get the ball rolling. The symposium was originally scheduled for fall of 2020, and then again loosely for last spring. But the disruptions of COVID have given us the opportunity to do more outreach and involve more people, and the event is richer for it. There are many people and groups to thank. They're listed in your program and on the website, but I would like to call out some names out loud. Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Antonio Farias, has been incredibly generous in funds and in his support for this project. So thank you so much. Thanks to all the departments and units that helped fund the symposium, we could not have created such a rich experience without your support. And thanks to Angie Beal for helping to manage these funds. The many members of the Council of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in CLAS over the years this symposium was developed and brought to life are people with imagination and heart. They've helped sustain me over these last 3 years. Soyon Bueno, Director of Asian American Student Services, was on the original grant and part of the original working group. Thank you for so many things, Soyon. We had wonderful history department grad students develop the walking tours, thanks to Lee Bishop and Whitney Roberts. And if you haven't signed up, there are probably still spaces for walking tours. They're in the registration area. The Office of Information Technology has been fantastic, setting up a difficult space to work with. Thanks especially to Brian Less and Stephen Hall. Tim Stalker, the CLAS webmaster, for getting our webpage to run. Kristen Kang Salisbury for creating our registration form, managing registration, and so much more. Tracy Combe for doing it all. I don't thank Tracy enough. She even took golf cart training in case we need to accommodate people for the walking tours, and Ellie Lewis did the same. Kristen and Tracy are two members of the Symposium Working Group. The others are Timberly Roan, Rachel Gross, and Isuri Vasquez. You can see their titles in the program. This team has met twice a month since February. They have been an amazing group to work with, and I thank them for their commitment, their creativity, and their vision. This has been an amazing experience helping to put together this wonderful program. Finally, I want to thank all the presenters who have given their time, some who have traveled quite far, so we can engage with these important issues. I so look forward to hearing your stories, your research, your discussions. We have about 350 people registered for this symposium. Obviously, many of them did not want to come out at 8:30 in the morning, but we have a lot of people both in person and on Zoom. So it promises to be a really exciting 2 days. So welcome. We have a welcoming video that now looks like it's going to be in the sun from Chancellor Marks to start us off.
Good morning. On behalf of City Denver, I am honored to welcome. Sorry. Good morning. On behalf of City Denver, I am honored to welcome you to this important symposium. Whether you're joining us in person or virtually, these next 2 days are an opportunity for us to come together with one purpose: to further acknowledge and address this university's history, as we also work to pursue our goals. There are so many people and organizations to thank for putting this event together. I want to give a special mention to the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Council on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, as well as the Symposium Working Group for their hard work. And I also want to thank all of our speakers and presenters. This event was years in the making, but it feels incredibly timely. This academic year, we're commemorating City Denver's 50th anniversary. And as part of our efforts to build a culture of equity and inclusion on our campus, we're using this milestone to both recognize our university's 50 years of progress and to also honor the contributions of the people and communities who came before us. Just a year ago, we gathered on the steps of St. Cajetan's, where this event is taking place, to announce the expansion of the Displaced Agrarian Scholarship. We took this step alongside our Auraria campus partners, the Community College of Denver and MSU. Many people don't realize that the history of this block, and indeed much of our campus, is one of displacement and hardship. The symposium is not only a chance to further explore our past, but also to reaffirm our commitment to shared progress. I hope these next 2 days bring new ideas and opportunities to the forefront that will enable us to better listen and learn and engage. And I also hope these next 2 days catalyze greater action. CU Denver continues to take important steps, such as a new initiative this year to preserve and renovate the historic homes along 9th Street on our campus. But we need to do even more to honor our university's comprehensive history, more to serve the people and communities impacted by that history, and more to be the leaders and the advocates our city and our state need us to be as we push forward in our goal to be the nation's first equity serving institution and to make education work for all. We can only be the change agents that higher education in the world needs when we are able to bring together diverse expertise, experiences, and backgrounds in meaningful and transformational ways. And this symposium is one of those ways. So thank you all again for being here, and I hope you enjoyed the event.
Chancellor Marks has a competing event that she was unable to get out of, so she sends her regrets that she couldn't be here today. I'd like to call up our Provost, Constancio Nakuma.
Good morning, everybody. Moments like this are always solemn because we are all reminded of things that happen involuntarily, which cause trauma to others, and which we should never forget, because as a society and as individuals, where diversity is a value we should and want to cherish, we need the constant reminders of how things can easily go bad for people in the name of whatever it is that we're elevating. And to have this event start off in St. Cajetan's is symbolic, but it's also a reminder of how close to home displacement is to us. On a very personal level, even displacement when it's voluntary still causes one to wonder about your own identity. When it's forced upon you, it's wondering about your identity, but also coupled with trauma. And so this is the kind of uneasy conversations that a university should be promoting. Let me start by applauding the organizers of this event and all those who will be participating for the 2 days. And let me suggest that this should not just be an intellectual exercise, it should be a call to action for all of us individually to do what we need to do to support respect for each other and to acknowledge that we live in a society, the global society, where displacement is happening actively in different parts of this world. And not to forget that we still have a role on a daily basis to be part of not just preventing it, but making sure we are not a part in promoting it. That's, to me, the first most important outcome that we should all hope to get out of an event like this symposium. The second point I want to make is that CU Denver, as an institution, has made a number of very bold commitments. And those commitments and the existence of the university itself call on us all to live a higher purpose. And that higher purpose, through our research, finding the facts, sharing those facts in a way that makes impact, and ensuring that as an institution, we are not simply beneficiaries, but also promoters of the things that we want to see in society, which are good. Intellectual development is important if it leads to critical thinking, the ability to assess situations and make choices that empower others. If that's what we are about as an institution, let's all commit to doing that. And so as I applaud the organizers of this event, and as I represent the academic community here, I want to say, let this symposium be one of many such conversations we're going to be having that help guide us to do for society what it is that higher institutions should be doing, developing our critical thinking, promoting the values that make societies more peaceful, more respectful of each other, and moving forward in a way that history informs our present, but also our future. So thank you for what is a critical event. And I hope the participation will lead to action of a kind that makes for a better society.
Now I'd like to call up our Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Antonio Farias.
Good morning. Good morning, people. What a wonderful people I see out there today. A layered people, a complex people, to tackle and take on what is the challenge that the Provost has put before us, and that this committee, the steering committee, and I want to really call out Dr. Levine-Clark and also Dr. Rohn and Dr. Gross for being the key academics here that have not done the academic thing, which is make this an academic conference, but make it a community gathering. Our communities are layered. They are historically tied to each other. And as you know about history, it is messy, it is bloody, and it is contested, right? Right now, as a nation, we got into a scuffle over something called the 1619 Project, which I think Dr. Levine-Clark mentioned earlier, right? In terms of our history with slavery and genocide that happened even before that, in order to clear land for capitalism to sort of flourish here. That is our history, right? And as the Provost has put forth, this is also a global process. My hope, right, is that the energy that comes out of this symposium centralizes it here in Denver, centralizes it right here in the Auraria campus, where 3 campuses of higher education have responsibilities, but also doesn't forget, as the Provost mentioned, that this is a global issue that continues on. This is not history as in that capital H that is at the past. This is ongoing right now. Every single year for the last couple of 100 years, we have had raging wars across this world, right? And every time those wars happen, who is the one that is most displaced and most violently sort of taken apart? It is mostly women, it is mostly children, it is mostly indigenous communities. So my hope here as an educator and as a place for education, and I'm glad to see the faculty, I see deans here, I see young, new grad students that will be our future faculty members, that you take this challenge to take this information and move it into your curriculums. That is the key to change, because bureaucracies, and we are a bureaucracy, just like many bureaucracies, are silent most of the time. And you have champions that come forward, they stand up. And yet at some point, the bureaucracy eats them up alive and it keeps going, right? As if it's neutral. But curriculums are powerful because they teach. And that is why something like the 1619 project is terrifying to people, because it has the audacity to teach a different history, right? A history that is much more complex and bloody. So again, my hope for us is that we take the learnings that come here and that we center the voices that normally don't get centered, which is community voices, because our communities have always been here. And while people may think that they're silent, they've never been silent since contact, right? They've just been patient. And yet patience is drawing near. So I'd like to, again, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for engaging. Thank you for continuing the conversation, making it more complex. And my gratitude again to the folks that all of you, faculty, staff, students, community members, our elders in the community that have come forth to bring forth truth. So with that, I leave it back to Dr. Levine-Clark.
Okay, finally, I'd like to call up our Regent and Director of External Engagement and HSI Initiatives, Nolbert Chavez.
Good morning. I want to first start by acknowledging all those folks, all those families, all those activists, community activists, and members of our community that have fought so long for decades for the recognition that we're experiencing now. And I see Virginia and Francis and Milo and so many others in the audience. It's comforting to know that you have carried the torch for so long. And I want to mention sometimes the biggest movements start with the simplest of things. And as we are here today on the Auraria campus, I want to give you a little history of how this most recent effort began. And it began with two students, Metro students, who decided to sit on the porch of 1068 9th Street. And my wife, Judy Montero, many of you know Judy from her previous life on city council. She was doing work here at Auraria, and she came in from a meeting and saw these two students sitting on the porch. And she asked them, or they asked her, "What's this building? What's this house?" And she said, "Well, it's an office." And they said, "Well, I think my grandmother used to live here." And Judy invited them in to take a tour, which they had never done. And they told stories about their grandmother. And so Judy invited them to bring their family back for a tour the following weekend, which they did, about 10 people. And then they invited them back. She invited them back again the following weekend, and they brought about 20 people, the Ramos family. And that led to a blessing a week or so later. And all the houses, all the families on 9th Street were invited to put up altars in front of the houses that they used to occupy. And then from there, someone, a friend of Judy's, called her and said, "Hey, you know, a friend of mine is a descendant of a displaced Aurarian, and they're not getting their scholarship. and maybe you can help. And so I happen to know who she was referring to. And Chancellor Marks and I sat down for breakfast one day, and I shared with her that the promises were not being kept still, right? We all know that. The promises were not being kept, and her response was, let's fix it. And we did. And the Board of Regents, my direction, passed a resolution to memorialize those scholarships. And Chancellor Marks reached out to the other heads of the institutions, Metro and CCD, and they did the same. And we had a celebration here last November to celebrate that. And that leads us to sort of where we are today, looking forward, in addition to looking back. And as I give you a little tease for my portion of the agenda next tomorrow, the end of the day, looking forward, we're going to be talking about three things: the past, the present, and the future. And I mentioned the past here, honoring our past, honoring the sacrifice that was made by so many for this campus, and then looking forward, how we utilize the homes that and honor those standing sentries, if you will, to what happened, how we use those homes, and then how we use the park and the campus as a whole, as a recognition of that sacred space that has been created. So I want to invite you to participate not only in today and tomorrow, but I hope you stay till the end, because that's where we're going to be talking about those things. And I hope you'll participate and be involved as we move forward from now going on. So thank you all very much for having me, and I look forward to seeing you over the next 2 days.
Great. Again, thank you. Thank you for our leaders. I think we have great vision. And I'm really looking forward to your contributions to the next 2 days. And we have a little break here as we get set for our first session. So please have some more coffee, tea, eat breakfast burritos and bowls. Meet each other, and we'll get started. All right. Thank you.